Okay, so what even is this scene? Why does he look so happy in this moment? Like, big metal guy, very cool, but the place just got nuked. His family probably died, along with literally everybody he knew. And yeah, I know that he is definitely in shock here, but from a writer's perspective, if this day's joy is really the only emotion that you're going to have baby Maximus showing, it's a weird one to pick. And like, this is the only flashback we get for him. There's no family, there's no emotional processing. It's almost like his history has been reduced to this one memory. And the show uses it multiple times. This is a core part of his psyche. And the more that I thought about it, the more sure I was that there was complexity here that I was missing. So I took a step back and channeled all of that 3 a.m. conspiracy theory energy into picking apart this character as a whole. And that's when I realized that I just fundamentally did not understand Maximus. And yeah, this is partially because I was more focused on other characters, but the closer I looked at his character, the more contradictions there seemed to be. Why was he so fundamentally obsessed with knighthood? Why was he suddenly so willing to give it up? Why did Thaddeus reject him? I was just baffled by every scene that had him in it. He has all of these cute little relatable moments, but he also has moments like this. Like, what? Are we supposed to root for this bully? Are we supposed to hate this underdog? Are we supposed to pity this power-hungry knight? Hey. At one point, I just had a massive sheet of like 50 questions of things that I just did not understand about Maximus. From a character perspective, to a thematic perspective, to his function in the story, I just kept running into dead ends and more questions. And after many, many deep breaths and a healthy dose of angry muttering, I consolidated my flock of little questions into 5 really big questions that I felt were all orbiting one sort of super answer. First, what is baby Maximus seeing in this knight here that makes him react this way? Second, what was the Brotherhood originally, and what is it turned into now? And if the Brotherhood was the core of Maximus's existence, why was he so bad at it? What does the line, "flesh is weak, but steel endures" mean? And finally, why was he given this as his final scene? So going back to my first question, if we really break down this scene, we know that the bombs literally just dropped, and we have baby Maximus climbing out of a refrigerator. And then he does this little gesture with his hand. It could be him blocking the sun, but the way his hand is positioned here, it almost seems like a salute. And it occurred to me that he could know what the Knights of the Brotherhood are, but this look and this extreme impression that this moment has in his psyche makes me think that this is the first time that he has interacted with anything from the Brotherhood. Definitely not 100% sure, but I do think that it's more likely. It doesn't even show him interacting with the man inside the suit, which means that it's not about the knight that saved him. It's not about his relationship with that person. It's about his relationship with the symbol of the Brotherhood specifically. This memory is the core of his fanaticism. So what is the Brotherhood? The religion thing really threw me for a loop because this doesn't act like the kind of religion I would expect to see here. Like, there seems to be a lot of Christian religious crusader set dressing with this concept of knights and clerics and grand-sounding given names, but so far as I can tell, that's it. There's no actual worship going on here, no higher power, no moral imperatives, other than something really vague about humanity not deserving pre-war tech or something. And there's not even a crappy prophecy of a peaceful world or a savior for these people to hang their hopes on. There's just the sense of violently carving out your own future, I guess? Which ironically sounds something like existentialism, which is not something that you would expect to find in a religious context. There are 3 lines about the nature of the Brotherhood that really stuck out to me. So there's this one.
And I'd be grateful to the Brotherhood for giving my life meaning.
Like, what is Maximus saying here? Why is this the line that the cleric cares about? You notice that the line before it catches his attention, but he's not sold on Maximus. He doesn't call off the knight intimidating him until he says the meaning phrase. And the next one is this one.
The Brotherhood has lost its way.
What is the way? Like, the organization seems functionally the same. Has the same knights, the same mission. He could be referring to a loss of power or a loss of control over the Wasteland. And I thought it stopped there, but then I took a step back to the reason that the cleric was talking about the Brotherhood failing in the first place. Knight Titus. So I went back to the Brotherhood's fundamental mission, and I tried to combine it with Titus's dying speech. So you've got this sense of using pre-war tech to prevent people from having pre-war tech, and then you have this little monologue.
Sending me on stupid missions for remnants that turn out to be a toaster.
And if you think about it, there's a limited amount of pre-war tech to find and preserve. After you find all the genuinely dangerous weapons, all that is left is toaster ovens and disillusioned knights who know that they are risking their lives for something completely useless. You have this empty hierarchy that provides places for people, but it doesn't really provide a purpose beyond that. If purpose is what the cleric believes that the Brotherhood is missing, then this line makes a lot more sense. Specifically from the cleric's perspective, a hierarchy that stays intact is one where the people who are on the lowest rung, or i.e. the people who are most likely to revolt, are so completely satisfied to just be a part of the hierarchy that they are happy with being at the bottom. But this line still doesn't make sense from Maximus's perspective. What meaning is he finding in the Brotherhood? Maximus is a fanatic for the Brotherhood, but he doesn't seem to be a fanatic for what the Brotherhood actually does. We only get this 3-second line about the purpose, and then he doesn't really mention it again. And even more than that, he laughs at it with Lucy. And this led me to my next question. If the Brotherhood is literally the core of Maximus's life, why is he so bad at it? He's bad at it from a practical perspective. The only thing he knows about the armor is something about the quality of the metal. He doesn't know what a circuit is. He doesn't understand this water refill. He doesn't understand that the issue he has here is a very simple fix, and 2 out of 3 times when he goes charging in to save the day with his suit, he just ends up making the situation worse. He even gets trapped by the suit at one point. We open on his perspective with him getting beat up by other members of the Brotherhood, and him initially getting passed over to become a squire. And not only that, he's bad at it from a devotion perspective. Like, his disillusionment is so fast.
You stupid mother, you know this is all your fault.
He has endured all the abuse up to this point, but something about this line was the final straw. From an audience perspective, it seems like this is just a ridiculously unfair line. Like, the knight is a really crappy person, so that's why Maximus let him die. But later, when Maximus is confessing to Lucy, he says,
He was threatening me, so instead of helping him, I watched him die.
How is this a threat? What about it pushed him to basically homicide by inaction? And finally, it is hard for him to give up the fusion core, but it isn't as hard as you would expect. Like, this armor is literally something he's been dreaming about for the majority of his adult life. Something he'll literally give his teeth for. Something he'll kill people for. And he just lets go of it in one scene. So yeah, Maximus basically goes through 3 separate levels of disillusionment. First, he becomes disillusioned with his knight. Next, he becomes disillusioned with the Brotherhood, and finally, he becomes disillusioned with his armor. For him to be this incompetent, this easily disconnected from the Brotherhood, there has to be something fundamentally incompatible between the way that Maximus sees the Brotherhood and what the Brotherhood actually is. Eventually, I realized that I needed a better window into the current Brotherhood than Maximus or even the cleric. I needed to find somebody who is a competent member of one of the lower rungs of the hierarchy, and that brought me to Thaddeus. Despite the fact that they had similar experiences in the Brotherhood, there is a major gap between these 2 characters. And to see the magnitude of that gap, all you have to do is look at these 2 scenes. In an almost identical situation, Thaddeus reacts very differently to Maximus. Maximus has to be literally ordered to put his life on the line for his knight, and he still does it very reluctantly.
My lord, I don't have armor.
Thaddeus, on the other hand, offers himself up freely.
If you let
Let me lead the charge. I'll lead the charge.
Up to this point, both Maximus and the Squire, and Thaddeus the Squire, had been treated with almost identical cruelty by their knight. So why does Thaddeus react so differently? That question led me to one of my favorite scenes in the whole show, which was this monologue.
This shipment of new recruits came in, and one of them
was Maximus. So it's a funny idea. What if we beat the shit out of that guy instead?
wasn't personal, you know?
If it wasn't personal, what was it about? Like, obviously survival, but beyond that, the way that Thaddeus survived was by ascending in the hierarchy. He understood that the only way to move out of the victim zone was by pushing Maximus lower than himself.
I just wish he lived long enough to find someone else to beat up, you know? Only seems fair.
Thaddeus is willing to be gulper fodder for his knight because that is the way that the hierarchy works. He is fundamentally worth less than Knight Titus. At least from his perspective, anyway. So, does this explain why Thaddeus rejected Maximus? Thaddeus seems to have the social, or at least the moral obligation to forgive him. He has admitted that he wishes that Maximus was still alive, and they did just go through some seriously bonding experiences together. He caused serious physical damage for a sustained period to Maximus. I mean, that feels like something that it should at least balance out Maximus lying to him. But if you live in a world that is completely determined by a hierarchy, and finding out that somebody below you has illegally taken the role of someone above you, it just doesn't compute. It doesn't matter if you have a good relationship if the thing that you structured your relationship around doesn't exist. Breaking the hierarchy is not something that is possible to survive. At least in Thaddeus's brain. If Thaddeus is the character that is most representative of this sense of devotion to the hierarchy, if Maximus valued the hierarchy in the same way that Thaddeus does, then he would have offered to sacrifice himself to the bear to protect his knight. So, if the original purpose of the Brotherhood doesn't matter to Maximus, and the hierarchy is also not what he wants from it, what else is there for him to want from the Brotherhood? This stumped me for a while. I eventually realized that my understanding of Maximus was just incomplete. Still, I didn't really know what he wanted in general. So I just did a blanket search of "I want" lines from him, and I stumbled across this.
How are you? Weak?
I don't want to be.
The more that I thought about it, the more that it seemed like weakness really turned out to be this critical thing for Maximus's character. He has very few moments of genuine competency, and he's weak in every sense of the word. He's weak physically, he's weak intellectually, he's weak morally. Every time he ends up charging in to save the day, it's the wrong situation. Like, you have this thing with the chicken, you have this thing in the vault, you have him saving Lucy's father. Even these brief moments of strength that he has are immediately belied by his actions after. He is willing to sacrifice himself for Lucy, right up until the point where he is about to be executed. You could make the argument that this was a calculated move to be reunited with her, but look at his face. This is raw panic. There is nothing calculated here. It also reminded me of another line that happens only a few scenes earlier in the same episode, and I think it's the key to understanding Maximus as a whole.
Flesh is weak, but steel endures.
I know.
Yeah, this line, it just wouldn't leave my brain alone. Like, at first this feels like just a weird religious platitude, but it's literally the second line of dialogue ever said to Maximus. And more than that, it is a weird thing to say to a friend who just got beat up. Like, can you imagine being like, haha, you're weak, sucks to be you? But the way that Dane says this line, it almost seems like they think it will be comforting somehow. Like, you are weak, but it's okay because steel is the thing that will allow you to overcome that weakness. But that's really weird because Maximus isn't a knight. He has no steel. And yes, this could be just referencing steel and the soul in like a metaphorical sense, But when you're dealing with something that is literally called the Brotherhood of Steel, that specializes in wrapping people in steel suits and also collecting steel things, you have to acknowledge that there is something more specific going on here than that. Also, I think it's kind of critical that this line is not "flesh is weak, but steel is strength." Like, that would have been a much more alliterative line. Strength makes much more sense as the opposite of weakness. But the dichotomy here is not weakness and strength. Dane does not think that the thing that Maximus is aspiring to is strength here. It is enduring. What is enduring? It's something that survives, or something that allows you to survive. Steel is the thing that allows Maximus to withstand being weak. Steel is a safe place. So the dichotomy here is really weakness and safety. And the more that I thought about this, the more everything started to click into place for me.
We have given you a name, a place in the world.
This cleric views it as a place in the hierarchy, while Maximus views it as a safe place to hide. He wanted to be a squire despite the fact that the Wasteland was dangerous because being an aspirant was already not a safe place for him. And being a squire comes with proximity to a knight, also known as a safe steel place. Which is why he becomes so thoroughly disillusioned by Titus. Keeping close to this knight will not keep him safe. Even more than that, keeping close to him will actively endanger Maximus. Even if he survives wastelanding with this guy, this line means that he will still be in danger after he goes back to the Brotherhood, because this guy will make sure that he gets punished for things that he had no control over. Maximus confesses to both Thaddeus and Lucy because these are characters that have saved his life. They are the people equivalent of safe places. And it's also why he turns so quickly on Thaddeus instead of trying to talk it out more. This also explains why he's so comparatively okay with giving up the fusion core. Maximus got trapped in the armor, and this place of safety became a place of danger, just like the Brotherhood itself. Which is why it is so easy for him to both let go of the suit and the Brotherhood. And it also explains why he is so excited about Lucy and excited about the vault. It is literally a massive safe place bubble with 4 feet of steel. And this is where I realized that I had this flashback scene completely wrong. It's not really about the Brotherhood or the Knight. It's about the refrigerator. I got distracted by the Knight before, but it's not like baby Maximus is emerging from basement rubble. And I don't know about you, but as a kid, I did not just randomly hang out in refrigerators. Which means that when crap started to go down, he must have gone searching for a safe place to hide. It implies clear intent in a way that him just emerging from a normal place like a basement would not. So you have this kid climbing out of a refrigerator and seeing this giant metal suit and then smiling. So what is it that he is seeing in the suit here? It is literally a big steel thing. Why would that matter to him? Because he is a kid climbing out of a big steel thing. If he actively sought out the refrigerator as a safe place, that means that when he emerges as a very traumatized kid, his reaction to the suit is, wow, look at that excellent refrigerator. That is an even better safe place. And that explains why Maximus was initially such a fanatic for the Brotherhood of Steel. In his mind, it literally translates to Brotherhood of Safe Place, or Brotherhood of Walking Refrigerators, but that's significantly less poetic. It's also why the only thing he really understands about the suits is the quality of the steel. This is the only memory we get from him because, as a kid, his entire perspective narrowed down to this moment, and then it just never broadened again. He is weak and he stays weak because he never progressed past that traumatized kid looking for a safe place to hide. And this scene right here is why his character kind of breaks my heart, why his story almost reads like a tragedy. He looks out over this possibility of a city, and it's very reminiscent of Shady Sands, the place he existed in as a child before his life narrowed down to a dichotomy of steel. And he realizes that his weakness, that obsessive need for a safe place to hide, is what will probably destroy it. Thank you so much for watching. If you have played the Fallout video games and you have thoughts on them, I would really, really love to hear them in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like. And if you want to see some more Fallout content, I'll probably be making some more videos on this, so be sure to subscribe. Special thank you to Schnee, who helped me talk out all my ideas. If you guys liked this, then you'll definitely like his stuff. He's probably the most brilliant analyst I know. Go check out his channel. And I would also like to apologize to my microphone, which I thought was just a really crappy mic, but was in fact not actually turned on for my first video, so sorry and thank you for working.